Welcome to Crinkletalk Podcast number 3, a very special outside edition. Here we are outside on our porch.
We don't live together.
Well, okay, my porch.
You made that sound really creepy.
Only slightly creepy.
Very creepy. But Tim's pouring the beer. That's why there was the pause there.
Yes.
In his
I have to concentrate.
pattern.
I don't want to spill this because it's a very delicious double IPA.
So what are you pouring into our glasses currently?
This is a beer that I found while I was on vacation in Wyoming. We were in the Teton Mountains near Jackson, Wyoming. And this is a brewery called Melvin. And local to Jackson, I believe. And I had a couple of their pale ales, IPA, and this is their 2x4, their double IPA. Surprisingly enough, I had other people here in Iowa say that they've heard of it and it was supposed to be really good and they wanted to try some of it.
Interesting. I personally have never heard of this. I think you gave me one from this brewery when you brought stuff back. I'm not sure if it was this one or if it was a different one. I almost guarantee it was this one.
Probably this one.
You had given me. And if I remember right, it was delicious.
I think it's the only thing I brought back from them. I did find this really nice little liquor store that did growler fills, and they had their regular IPA on tap, and I did go a couple times throughout the week and fill up my little Smoky Mountain growler on that.
That's always nice when they have the growler fills. You can then get whatever you want and usually get it a little cheaper. Can't figure out if he's yelling at the dog or at the child.
Yeah, there's a little background noise and neighbors arguing with somebody. I don't know. I think that was the dog. I would hope so because I guess there is a little girl walking around too.
That's right.
All right.
Social commentary today. Hopefully he's not listening. So this is a double IPA.
Double IPA.
9.9.
Yep. Nice and citrusy and piney. Really smooth for a 9.9 too. I could drink this very easily. A lot.
It's not my favorite double IPA, but it's not bad either. It's got, I don't know, I'm guessing it's the hops, the flavor of those that I don't like as much.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't saying what variety it is.
So, I really enjoy this one. I mean, there's definitely some better ones out there, but I think this is pretty darn solid. I had some other good local IPAs while I was out there.
And by local, you mean local to South Dakota?
Local to Jackson, Wyoming.
Okay, wow.
I did try some other ones out there from the surrounding area that were not so great. In fact, one of the guys at the liquor store let me try like 4 IPAs before I chose which growler I wanted. And
that's a nice system.
Was not a contest at all. The Melvin IPA was by far the best. But.
And I don't know if we just don't travel to the right areas, but it seems like around where we reside, every brewery you go to, you can find something good. But I know when we traveled to Cincinnati last year, we got stuff from the local breweries there, and there was nothing there that really popped out that was fantastic. There was the ones that everybody talks about, but there was nothing that would compare to what we're getting here. So I don't know if that's just the difference between what you can get locally is fresher, or if it's actually just better beers being made local to where we're at right now.
I think we are pretty lucky in the state of Iowa right now. I mean, I don't think you could have said that 10 years ago. I think there would have been 2 or 3 decent breweries, and now there's probably 20 making solid beer in the state right now. I was actually just at the Iowa Craft Beer Fest in Des Moines last weekend and had some fantastic beer from Pulpit Rock, Alluvial. Wingnut had a basil lime wheat. Really good.
Sounds unique and interesting. Usually when you throw kitchen herbs in, you sometimes get a funny taste.
No, that was really well done. This little brewery called Shiny Top had a really solid nut brown ale. Probably it was just a local one little town thing. I'll probably never see it again ever, but that nut brown ale was pretty darn good. Of course, Pulpit Rock's Loopy Lynn was awesome. Single Speed was there. Their stuff is always great. Their new Strawberry Summer one was really good.
And their stuff, when they even have it around here, none of it ever stays on tap very long. It's a very quick process for single speed to get in and out unless it's one of the ones that they're producing year round. If you miss it one week, it's probably not going to be there the next.
Yeah. Millstream had a old honey Hefeweizen, and that was surprisingly really good. I'm not huge on honey beers in general, but that one was one of the better beers I've had of the day, too. Of course.
Do we know why it was called Old Honey?
I don't know if that's actually what it was called. I think it was, but I don't know.
Because I was going to say, is that because the honey was aged, or was this a beer that was aged on honey, or did you just make the name up? We're going to go with you made the name up.
I probably made it up. There was 4 hours of drinking before I got to that beer, so
that'll do it.
Couldn't maybe not have the name right. Fire Trucker was right next to them, and their IPA was really good. They were out of the Tropical Burn by the time I got there, but their other IPAs were still very solid.
Yeah, and I finally got to try them. Last week I got the Tropical Burn at a Hy-Vee at a Growler fill station. Got the 64-ounce growler, and within 3 days that was gone. That is one of the better beers that I think I've ever drank. I mean, I can't even really compare it to any other IPA right now that I've had.
Really?
That would compete with it. It was that good.
See, I prefer 515s. What I had from Alluvials, their double, and the double from that Loopy Lynn from Pulpit Rock. And even Toppling Goliath, they had their Scorpius Porcella. I would take all those over Fire Trucker, but I would never turn Fire Trucker down because that was still a fantastic beer. So I'm not slamming them at all because it was great. But I just kind of prefer those other ones slightly better.
And out of all the ones you've mentioned, I've never had any of those exact ones. I've had many of the double IPAs from Toppling Goliath, though, and I wouldn't put any of those in the same category as what had come from Fire Trucker. But I was reading up on that one, and that one has like mango and stuff in it, and I think to begin with, you couldn't tell what the flavor was, but then you really could, and it's just a nice, cloudy, thick beer, and it's actually quite delicious.
Yeah, and to be fair, I probably need to try that one again because I just had a 16-ounce growler one night at the hotel when we were in Des Moines, and I had already had a couple of beers beforehand, so I would like to try it again on a fresh palate.
Well, if it ever sticks around in my house long enough, you'd probably have to come within 3 days if I got 64 ounces again.
It doesn't take me 3 days to come. Yeah. So. How much was the 64-ounce growler at Hy-Vee?
It was the most expensive growler fill there, was that one, and I think it was $18.99 is what I paid for it. So a little higher than what I'd want to pay, but I figured it was equal to, what is it, like almost 3 bombers? And if you get 3 bombers that are, 8 to 9% alcohol, you're going to pay about $10 a piece. Yeah. So it's actually quite reasonable to do it that way. And when you're getting something that fresh and that local, I mean, there's nothing I've got in a bomber that can compare to that.
We've been finding that Hy-Vee, in their market grill, will fill growlers really cheap.
And this wasn't even in the market grill. This was actually in the liquor.
Oh, they had it in the
section.
Liquor store.
They had 5 of them set up directly right there.
That's a much more.
Well, maybe there were 6, but there were 6 of them set up in there. I think 4 of them were local, and then they had one from whatever that Lagunitas or whatever that place is. And one other one that wasn't local, but all the other ones were
what do you think of that?
Alcohol.
Lagunitas.
I'm not a big fan.
I'm not either, and I know we'll get crucified for this on the Iowa beer boards because a lot of people love them. They're sucks and all those other stuff, and I personally, I really could care less if I ever had one again.
Yep, and that was actually the only other one that was on tap there that I was even comparing with my growler, because they had one of theirs, they had an Imperial IPA, and the one that I got from Fire Trucker was 9%, and the one from Lagunitas was 11%. So it was a tough debate for which one was going to be worth my money, but I had heard good things about Fire Trucker and never had good experiences with the other one. So when you're investing that kind of money in getting 64 ounces, why get something that potentially might not be that good?
And you've never been to any of the breweries. Have you been to 515 yet?
I have not.
Okay, so 515 is an awesome tap room. Super friendly people, great beer. I've never had, a good beer. I don't even think I've had a good beer. They've all been great. Every beer from there has been great. I've heard that Alluvial and Fire Trucker both have really sweet tap rooms too, so that's something that we'll have to try and hit up sometime.
Yeah, I don't think I've been to any of the tap rooms in like the Des Moines area or anywhere around there. I've been close to Exile, but never actually made it in there. Had the agenda of doing that, but never actually physically went in.
Well, we've done Court Avenue a couple of times, and we've been to...
Oh, yeah, I don't really count that, though, because they don't really compete anymore.
Pub, right? Yeah. Yep, and Rock Bottom. Good people, but I haven't really liked their beer.
Yeah. Well, they were some of the first ones around in
They
this
were.
area, blazing the trail for everybody else, and then it seems like they just fell off when everybody else kept going. So as people's palates have changed and the beers you can get have gotten better, theirs are just the exact same beers that they were when they started, and now you can't compete anymore producing that same thing.
The last time I was there, I had Jack Daniel's barrel-aged stout, and I usually love whiskey barrel-aged stouts, and that was not good. It was just so heavy on the barrel, and maybe it was just because it was so fresh or whatever, but I think that's on the brewer for releasing that before it's ready. I mean,
Yeah, because they don't bottle anything, correct?
right.
So then the only option there is for the brewer to keep it longer and to not release it. So things that have to be aged, if they can't hold on to them long enough, may never work for them.
Because there's other places. I mean, we've had wood-aged beers from Court Avenue, and I've never had that problem. They've always been fantastic right away when they release them.
I don't think I've ever had a wood-aged one on tap where they haven't bottled it, as far as I can remember.
Oh, really?
I don't think I really have anything to compare with that.
Oh, yeah.
But up until this year, I really didn't drink a lot of the wood-aged stuff because I'm not a big fan of bourbon. But after having all of those, whatever those one really popular release this year, I kind of enjoy it now.
The Bourbon County brand stouts. We'll have to break one of those out for the podcast. I got a couple different variants of that.
Those are good.
I heard that the proprietary blend this year was awful.
Really?
And it's not infected like some people think. Like, there are definitely ones that got infected this year from them, and they made an announcement about that. But the proprietary one, which is only sold in Chicago, it's just made for Chicago, for whatever reason, just not good. Which I do have a bottle of that, and I'm hoping it's good because it was not cheap.
So are they making amends for the ones that got infected, or are they just saying, too bad, so sad?
No, actually, they did come out right away and say, this was infected, you have till such and such date to contact us, and we'll refund your money. But they were very vague about which ones were infected. So what I've found in my experience online is that most people have not, because that date's long gone, most people did not get their refund because they didn't realize or know which beers were actually infected, because of just the regular Bourbon County, they released I think a 13.7 and a 14.3% alcohol. So there was two different batches there, and even in those batches you have all those different barrels that they aged them in. So who knows? I mean, we had one at Christmas time that was definitely not infected. It was very good. It was still very boozy yet at that time. So we have one more of those, or I have one more of those sitting there.
I don't have any left. Yeah. I've had 3 of them, at least, since then.
But
and they've all been very boozy. But once I have them, I can't save them. I found I don't have control over that when I have those in my possession. So I'd have to store them somewhere else if I was going to keep them. But that's clever by them to put out that release that it has to be, you have to let them know by that time, because most people are going to let it age. And so even if you have something that's bad, you may not notice it until 2 years down the road if you go to taste it then, and then you have this crappy thing. But they've done their part, so they can always go back and say, hey, we tried to have you send it in. So ultimately them saying, you might want to put this away, but then, hey, return it if it sucks, is working out to their benefit because it's allowing them to get out
And I
of that.
suppose everybody should have just, went ahead and said, hey, I want my money back, and they would have refunded it, no questions asked. But
well, and if you could drink it first and then ask for your money back, or I guess it depends on what you needed to do.
They didn't. As far as I know, there was no returns or any of that kind of stuff. It was just you had to write them, and
then you definitely should have been saying.
So I probably should have, but I'm more honest than that. And we tried that one before that announcement was made. It was not infected. I'm assuming that this one's not infected because it has the same alcohol percentage, and I would think that it came from the same, but maybe not.
Yep. And you let it sit around long enough, could be something that's your fault if it comes out poorly. Could have got too warm, could have got too cold, whatever happens.
That's true. That's my biggest problem with aging beer right now, is that I don't have a good place to age it where it's not going to get warm. So now I'm to the point where I probably should drink all of those. Maybe not in one night, but... Or maybe. Maybe that could be a podcast. We could just...
It could be a very short podcast. We just open them all right at once, and we say 15-minute podcast. We're going to get these going. See what happens.
Well, have you seen... I don't know how much you're online on Facebook for the Iowa Beer Boards, but...
I am not at all.
There is a movement going on right now where one gentleman chugged a entire 16-ounce can of Todd the Axeman in about a second and a half. Extremely impressive. He poured it into one of the pint glasses and chugged it. And then...
and then he died, right?
No, actually, one of the other persons in the group said, come on over to my place and we will shotgun a Sweet Baby Jesus can.
Huh.
And so they did, and then they posted the video of that. And tell you what, that guy that chugged the Todd the Axeman, that dude can drink, because he shotgunned that second can in about a quarter of a time that the other guy shotgunned it.
Wow.
And I've seen at least 2, maybe 3 other videos just since then, and I think that was only a day or 2 ago, of people taking these high alcohol beers and just gulping them down.
But what's the reason behind doing that? Most of those beers are not cheap, and they're made for you to, like, sip and enjoy.
Well, see, in there, that was a lot of the flack that went out. So I guess it's for you to decide what you want to enjoy. I mean...
Because if I want to do that, I'll just take a shot of Everclear, put it in a Miller Lite, and chug that. It's going to have the same effect, and I'm not wasting $9.
I would tend to agree with you on that, but it's their money. That's how they want to drink their beer.
Correct. Let's just hope that's not a big movement, because there's going to be some good beers wasted with people trying that, and a lot of people who won't be able to handle doing that.
That is very true. You're going to hit those 9-10% beers, and you chug them like that, and you do 2 or 3, and you're going to be on the floor.
Yep. Or you're going to be the kind of people who spit them up to begin with, and they're not going to get even down your throat because you're a little sissy girl.
I actually came close to that at the beer fest a couple of times. It was a long, hot day out there. I mean, it was over 90 degrees. There was no shade.
Oh, I know. It was over 90 degrees.
You were on
riding
a
76
bike
miles. Ride. Yeah, so I understand the heat, and you'd be amazed the people who drink on that thing. I think there was 8 towns that we could stop in. And I'm just blown away when people pull into every bar in every town. There's no way that I could drink that much going into each town. And they're not drinking good beer. But in that kind of heat, to ride bike and drink all that, that's just insane. And I mean, that's what Ragbri is, and that's why I would never, ever go.
Yeah, I've never understood how you could do that. All that physical exertion in the heat. Because I actually got a little sunstroke last weekend. I don't know if it was from Saturday or...
Diagnosed by himself, remember? And he's you're a veterinarian secretary, so your medical backing is pretty low.
Office manager.
So not even a secretary.
Yeah. I'm higher than a secretary because I had done a secretary job.
He's a male secretary. Secretary is just too female-ish.
That's right.
So he's being politically correct with his own title. That's unique. So heat stroke, take that into account, that if he were a dog, his tongue would have been hanging out or something like that.
That's true.
That's how you would have diagnosed
like that. I would have needed somebody to squirt me with a hose to cool me down.
I have no idea if I just poured those anywhere near equal, because it's really hard to tell.
It's pretty close. I mean, you got a little bit more because I got more foam, but...
It's all right.
Let's tell everybody at home what we got.
We have from Odell the Tree Shaker Imperial Peach IPA. Have you had this one yet, Tim?
I have had this one. It's pretty decent.
As have I. I quite enjoy this one.
Not as much peach as I was hoping for, but peach is one of those hard fruits to get into beer and really flavor through.
Yeah. To me, it's very bready. Like, the yeast is very... I can taste the yeast. Like, you can taste that bread flavor, and I kind of enjoy that because it's kind of like a fruit bread. You can't really taste the fruit in this, but that's what it kind of reminds me of, is a fruit bread almost of some variety. I've never had peach fruit bread, but I imagine this is what it would taste like. Not very fruity, but very bready.
He's never had fruit bread, but he did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, so we're okay.
That's true. Those commercials went away. Those were very good commercials.
Those were fantastic commercials.
Whatever happened to their marketing crew? Because you don't hear anything about Holiday Inn Express anymore. That's definitely a change, though, after drinking the previous.
Yeah, it's totally different from the Melvin double IPA going to this Imperial IPA.
And would an Imperial IPA be the same as a double IPA? Like, what is the line there, and what makes it different?
I don't think there's a difference. I think it's just what you want to call it, personally. In
fact,
I
know if I see Imperial, I'm going to be more prone to buying that than I am to buying double.
The Imperial is only 8% alcohol, where the double was 9.9.
And usually I'm exactly the opposite way with alcohol. I'd rather buy something higher because I'd rather pay for what I'm going to get. But if I see the Imperial name in my brain, if there was 2 beers sitting side by side and I was interested in both, I'd pick the Imperial over the double.
Yeah. So this is it's as much smoother than the other one, less hops, I think, than the other one. Yeah, more malt.
Yeah.
But really nice, smooth beer, even at 8%. It's a good sipping beer. Good on a hot day. Kind of cool you down with that little bit of peach hint. Odell's fairly new to Iowa.
Very recently.
Just in the last few months, and they were one of those breweries that I think Odell is a really good, solid brewery. I don't think I've had anything bad from them.
And I would say I don't think I've ever had anything fantastic from them, though,
I would agree
either.
with that as well.
I mean, they're one I'm going to pick up if they can get their price knocked down a little bit, because right now they're incredibly expensive.
They are really expensive here. I was really surprised when I was in Wyoming, which is much closer to Colorado, that they were even more expensive. Because I thought, oh, maybe I'll pick up some, they had Odell cans and stuff and a whole bunch of stuff. I'm like, oh, I'll pick up some of that. And I saw it was $2 more a six-pack than what it is in Iowa.
But that's hard to know, too, because when you're in a different state, there's different taxes on alcohol and stuff like that. So did they get it cheaper, but then just their state regulations make it way more expensive? It's hard to tell.
And there's no big stores where we were at in the mountains. It was all mom-and-pop grocery stores and liquor stores and stuff.
And they'll charge you what they want to charge. That's the same way around here. If you found it at a local store, like a little store, they're going to put whatever price tag on it they want.
But Odell's one of those where we're kind of getting oversaturated somewhat in Iowa. Not that I'm going to complain, because I love having all these different options here. But everybody kind of, Odell's coming. And the first day out, everybody goes out and buys $50 worth of Odell, and then if you go back a month or two later, you can start getting this stuff on clearance because people stop buying it again, because there was 2 other breweries that came to Iowa right after that, and everybody went out and bought $50 of that.
Yep. One, every time a new one comes in, another one leaves. And that doesn't mean that's always a bad thing, because some of the ones that are here probably need to go. But I'm sure there's somebody out there who liked the variety that had to go at that time when the new one was introduced. And I don't know how you regulate that and keep it consistent so that everybody can have what everybody wants.
I'm actually getting a little bit more peach tonight than I normally do, I think. But I totally actually agree with your babbling about the breadiness. That's definitely there. Less hops, more breadiness.
And it doesn't say anything about like the yeast strain or anything on that. You don't see a lot of that. I think I can remember back when I first started drinking beer, you would see more about what the yeast strain was that they were using, and things like that. But now you never hear anything about that unless it's like Brett or something like that, where they're using something for souring. But you don't just hear that they're using SR, whatever. It's always something about hops or whatever fruit they added.
And we are getting close to the expiration technically date there at 7/14. So I suppose some of the hops could have fallen off a little bit.
I wonder how long these are supposedly good for, because this hasn't even been in Iowa that long.
No. And I know everybody's a big believer of fresh hop IPAs and pale ales, and of course I am too. If you can get it fresh within the first week or two, that's fantastic. It's going to be even better. But with all the technology we have, with all the counterfiller pressures and all that, and the lack of oxygen and the lack of sunlight getting into these bottles, 95% of IPAs are going to hold up. They're going to taste the same after 2 weeks, at the same after 2 months. If they're in a bottle or a can, if things were done properly, they're going to be okay. So,
but if they still have live yeast in them, it could still change.
That's very true. But I don't think a lot of these breweries do that with live yeast.
You don't see a lot of sediment usually anymore.
No.
That was popular again for a while, where you could have pulled yeast out of them and actually started your next batch if you wanted to.
That's kind of the way the Iowa IPAs are right now, which is why it is a big deal to have those more fresh.
Yep.
They're doing less filtering, and you're seeing those really hazy, almost orange juice-like IPAs, because they've actually found, that yeast sediment actually has all that yummy hop aroma and flavor sitting right there. Why should you get rid of that yeast sediment when you can add that flavor right to your beer? And it's not like it's chunks of yeast. They do filter it somewhat, but
it'll still settle to the bottom for the most part. Even if you're getting it bottled, it's going to settle out, and you're going to kind of have the choice at the end whether you spin that and get all of it out or whether you let it sit.
Yep. And we've done that for home brewing. I mean, we've seen anywhere from just a touch of yeast in the bottom of the bottle to almost half inch of yeast in the bottom of the bottle. And if you're not a total idiot, you're going to get the beer out of there without getting chunks of yeast out if you want to.
And I mean, if you want it there so you can eat it, that's up to you as well. I'm sure yeast has some probiotic effect on your belly so that you poop better. How do you feel about that, Tim?
Yeast is supposed to be very good for you, actually, yeah. And it's also good for your septic system, if you have that.
Oh, like you mean like your outdoor septic system? I was like, again, vet technician talking about a septic system.
Well, I suppose your stomach septic system, that would work, yeah.
True.
So you went to the Promised Land recently.
I did. I went to New Glarus.
And you got this fancy New Glarus hat on.
I do. Yeah. It's one of the nice things that came from there. When you drive that far, and it's actually not that far from here, but all of the roads are just highway, and it's all windy as all get out, and what probably should take you about an hour and 45 minutes takes you a little over 3 hours.
Yeah, I'd say Madison's about a 3-hour, 15-minute drive from here.
Yeah.
And New Glarus is just south of Madison.
And it's just because they are windy and stupid.
Yep, they have no actual highways. It's all 55 mile an hour, and you're winding like crazy. And people in Wisconsin tend to drive like 80-year-old grandmas.
Oh, see, I've seen the opposite. They tend to drive like 90 miles per hour on these little tiny highways.
I rarely encounter that with Wisconsin people.
Huh. Well, that's the way my wife drives, and that's the way the people we usually run into are there. But no, that brewery is just gorgeous. I didn't really get like a chance to tour like actually where they make anything, but the whole building and stuff that they have is just massive. It's the biggest thing I've ever seen where like beer is made, and the courtyard and everything. I can't figure out whether what they have was built specifically for them or if it was like a castle or something that they turned into their brewery, because all the outside stuff is just gorgeous. It's beautiful. And I don't know, I mean, I can understand why they produce the beer they do, because now they have this nice facility and they've just got a beautiful place to do it all.
It's a place I need to get to yet. All the times we go to Madison, I've never been to New Glarus.
Yeah, and this was I was going there for their special release, because they're doing 3 of them this year. They did the one that I was just at, which was at the beginning of June or whatever. Then they do it again in August, and then I think they're doing it again in September or October. So we'll see if I get to go to the next 2. The first release, do you remember what it was that I brought you?
It was gauze, I think. It was like a mixture of
2014 and 2015, I think. Or was
I
it
think
2012
it was 2014, and then they aged it for a year, something like that.
And so not a variety that I would potentially drive 3 hours for.
No.
But there wasn't a lot of information prior to the release about what it was going to be. They kind of try to keep that secretive.
Have you had it?
I have not. I plan on drinking that this week. We are on vacation, so I will drink one this week while I'm on vacation, and then I have the other 2 that I will put away and drink over the course of time. I'll probably bring one to when we have Christmas, and then just put the other one away until next year, just to see how it does after a year, to see if that changes at all. But again, like you said, I don't really have a great place to store stuff. My basement is a damp, dirty hole. Tim knows all too well about damp, dirty holes.
Especially Jared's damp, dirty hole.
And then the rest of my house would just be too hot or too cold the rest of the year, so not a lot of great options on that. But kind of excited about trying this one, just to see if the hype lives up to what these things are.
Well, it's very interesting that they aged it for so long. Being a gauze, you don't really hear that, and then it's like 5.5% alcohol too, and
really
that's
low
not
alcohol.
A percentage that you normally hear being aged for many years too. So I'm curious. I have not tried it yet. That was an early birthday present,
and it was interesting because the release was they did it at 9 o'clock. The release said that it was at latest 9 o'clock Friday and Saturday, and we didn't go down on Friday. We got there on Saturday, and on Friday night we stayed in the next town over. And I was reading, and what I was reading on the internet was saying, like, people who had went to these in the past are sleeping in the parking lot, and they get there at like 10 o'clock the night before, and it sells out. And so I was a little panicked, knowing the next morning we weren't leaving until like 8 o'clock, and we were about 15 minutes away. So I'm like, we're going to get there, the line's going to be all the way down into the road, and we're going to be like number 100, and they're going to be sold out before we get there. Well, we got there at 8:15, there was absolutely zero line. Everybody that was there ahead of us had already went through, made their purchase. The whole courtyard was full of people drinking. But apparently with the way they release it, saying 9 o'clock at the latest, I don't know what time they started doing it, but we could just walk up there, so I feel bad for anybody that would have spent the time to, like, camp out or do anything like that. I mean, because we just walked straight up. We could have been in and out in 7 minutes, and that's with walking slowly if we wanted to.
I did see somebody on the beer board say they were there at like 6, and they were like 5th in line.
Yeah, and to me, they have to feel stupid, because there was people pulling in even at 10:30, 11 o'clock. They walked straight up there, got what they wanted, and left. Like, there was no line, and there was no fear of anything running out. So I don't know if the variety was leaked prior to the release, and so some people just didn't go, being it wasn't like a blackberry bourbon barrel aged something, or if this has just calmed down now that they don't get the people seeking it out, because they've done it, I think, since 2014. So as the novelty of these releases worn off, or was it even crazier on Friday? And if I would have went on Friday, the line would have been incredibly excessive.
Now, you brought me back one of their Thumbprint series, Old Bruin.
Correct.
And I have not had that one yet.
It is delicious.
No, I was just going to ask.
I would have bought more of them if I would have known it was as good as it was.
Is that similar to their Enigma? Or not quite so crazy?
Not quite as crazy, but I would say more yeasty. Again, kind of like the one we're drinking now. There's more of that. It's a little thicker and has more of that. You can taste the yeast. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I would have brought more of that back. I actually grabbed their other new one. They have this bubbler that's out, and it's a Hefeweizen. And I don't know what a Hefeweizen is supposed to taste like, but if they made it correct to style, I definitely do not like Hefeweizen. It's not good.
Bready and kind of has like a banana bubblegum type.
That could be what this one's kind of like. I don't know. It's just really light and
I used to
enjoyable.
be huge into Hefeweizens, and now I have to be in the right mood for them. They kind of
Well, be in that right mood, because it'll be included in part of your birthday present. Because, I mean, there's just different styles for different people. And it's not a bad beer. It's just not a beer that I enjoy. So,
well, I'm curious to try the Old Bruin. If anybody has ever had the chance or gets the chance to try their Enigma, you have to get it. It just is mind-blowing. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. It doesn't taste like beer necessarily. It's sour and tart and just yummy goodness. It's just the weirdest thing. It took me probably half of a beer to figure out if I actually liked it. And since then, that's been probably my most sought-after beer to have, because it's just ridiculously good.
Yeah, and they're just doing some strange things out there. They're doing stuff that nobody else is doing, at least not well. I mean, there's other breweries that are doing crazy stuff, but they're kicking out things that are consistently good. And whatever they've got going on there, it's good. I worry a little bit, though. From what I understand, it's just the guy and his wife. They kind of don't really have any presence anywhere but in Wisconsin. It doesn't seem like they really do a lot even in Wisconsin besides producing beer. And I don't know where they're at age-wise. But I worry what's going to happen to that place when they go out. Like, do they have an exit plan or something like that? Because that's a beer that if it doesn't have an exit plan where somebody else is going to pick that up when they go, well, I'm not sure.
I sure would hope they'd have one, because they seem, from the outside looking in, they seem very business savvy. They are only available in Wisconsin. I mean, you can get them everywhere. I mean, you can get them at gas stations.
Yep. That's actually where I got the ones that we got outside of the special release, because it was cheaper to get it at the gas station than to buy it at the brewery.
Which is crazy. You never see that.
Yep.
Brewery's always cheaper.
What I read up on that as well is that they had said that they would rather have their distributors make money off of it, so they'd rather have them sell it cheaper, because they know that people are going to come to them no matter what, so they can charge whatever price there they want, and then allow the people out in the community to sell it cheaper to make their money just by having that. So, a good way of doing it, but hopefully they have something in place, or, could all crash and burn eventually.
Yeah, I was just thinking that what this podcast is missing is the next door neighbor's dog running over and barking at us, and like he was going to attack us last time.
We could probably make that happen, Tim.
I mean, we could move it to the back and we could release a couple of hounds, but...
We could release your hounds.
Yeah. Jared's going to pull up our next beer. We're going to go a local Iowa beer from the Iowa City, Coralville area, Back Pocket. Back Pocket has done an amazing job at just making true-to-style beers like the Munich Helles and Dunkels and things like that are just... They're not flashy, they're not in your face, they are just good, solid beers, but they have also expanded upon that, and they started making, the IPAs, the double IPAs, and some of the other stuff. I tried their Murder Horn at the fest. It's a Imperial Golden Helles, maybe 10.2% alcohol, I want to say. It was super good.
And am I correct in thinking this brewery started off and all of their beers sucked and they've evolved? Or was that Madhouse? Or were they both sucking and then they
I think
evolved?
Kind of both. I don't know. I can't really say that I've ever had a bad beer from Back Pocket. I just think that they were so plain and boring in the world that's going on.
Correct.
And they still do those beers, and they're still good quality beers. It's just if you're actually looking for something different, that's not necessarily. I suppose nowadays that actually is different, going just
True
to style. We are trying the Blood on the Blade Red IPA. I really like red IPAs, and I didn't know that before till Single Speed. Single Speed always does a really good red IPA, seems like. And so when I was really excited to try this Blood on the Blade, and I really enjoy this one too.
I don't think I've ever had a red IPA.
I think you've had the Single Speed one before.
I don't know if I had.
It's
not
been-
one
it's
I would
been a
like,
while
pick out.
since
It's one
we've
you would
had
have
that
had to have me try out of your glass or
Yeah.
something.
This one's 6.5% alcohol. It's very drinkable. Again, it probably won't necessarily blow your mind or anything, but I think it's just a really good beer that you could drink a couple times a week and not have any issues with it.
Again, very different than the other two we've drank. To me, it's a little more bitter, but not bitter in the way the first one was. The first one was a really hoppy bitterness, and this one, I don't even know how to explain the bitterness in this one.
And
It's
this one
coming from something else.
Is an older one. This is the last of the one I had, so the hops have probably fallen off a little bit, but it's a good mixture of malty and bitterness from the hops.
It's definitely got a big mouth feel after you swallow. It leaves that aftertaste, and the other two didn't so much do that. And again, it could be because it's a little bit older or whatever. So I don't know if it's just the freshness or what that is.
I've heard that their brewery is absolutely beautiful, and if you have the chance to stop there, you really should. It's just supposed to be a phenomenal place.
Now, are they connected to something else?
No, they're all on their own. They do. I'm pretty sure they do food there. They during the summer they do movies outside, so they must have a nice outside area.
And this one's in the Des Moines area. as
Iowa
well,
City
correct?
area.
Iowa City.
They've become pretty bigger presence on social media, and I really like whoever is running their stuff. They're very responsive. They're funny.
Which is unique around here because there's not a lot of them that have a good social media presence.
They have a Cane Blade Double IPA.
And you've talked that one up, I've heard.
I just
about
absolutely
that.
love that one. I still have one bottle of their Doppelbock from the same series that the Cane Blade was from. That's really good. The Ray Gun IPA is really good. And then their Hawkeye Coffee Stout. I think you've had that with me before, maybe.
Maybe. I know I've seen it.
Just a good solid. It's not like a high alcohol crazy. It's just a nice, solid, lower alcohol stout. Good coffee flavor. I think they have somebody local in Iowa City that they do coffee with there.
And there's so many good coffee beers out there now. That's hard to compete with anymore, is saying you have a good coffee beer, because there's just
And there didn't
so
used to
many.
be. That's something they've all really stepped up their game on that, I think. So Single Speed Brewed ×2 was probably the best one out there for the longest time.
Yeah.
In Iowa anyways. I know the Chicory Stout from Dogfish Head. I mean, that's probably one of the older ones, and that has always been fantastic.
Well, and now Pulpit Rock with the pour over porter.
Yeah.
That's probably,
Porter,
to me,
good.
that's probably the best one in Iowa that I've had currently. Like, it beats out Single Speed now.
And I can't remember, but I know I had one at the Beer Fest. I don't know if it was Alluvial or 515 or one of those guys, but it was really good too.
And they're all working with their local coffee shops.
That's the best
which
part
is
about it. It's all
good.
local coffee shops that are, well, a lot of them are even roasting it right there in-house, which makes a huge difference. You know, Single Speed definitely does. In fact, their new spot is going to have Sidecar Coffee, I believe, is the one that they work with.
Yep, that makes sense.
They're going to have their own spot, share the building with them. So you'll be able to, get coffee in the morning and beer in the afternoon.
Or beer in the morning and coffee in the afternoon.
Right. Whatever. I mean, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah. And actually, just yesterday, I had a bomber from Rogue. They had a coffee IPA with Stumptown coffee in it. And apparently, I'm assuming Stumptown must be big out wherever Rogue is. I'm assuming Rogue is in Oregon somewhere.
Oregon, yeah.
But I've always heard of Stumptown. So I figured with what the Iowa ones are doing with all their local coffee vendors, that Rogue being as big as it is, that this one should be amazing. And it was fine. It was drinkable. But if I had the opportunity to get one of the ones from Iowa, I definitely would. I would never seek that one out again if I had the opportunity.
Yeah, I think we're kind of spoiled here. I mean, there's great beers all across this country, but we really don't even need to leave this state for great beers. Our biggest problem is that most of them don't distribute. So it's harder for us to get that kind of stuff. And
Correct.
That's fine, because it's worth taking a day trip or something to go fill a growler.
Yep.
Sit
It's
at
just
your
if
bar
you
for
could
a
get a
bit.
growler to last longer, if you,
Right.
could fill it and have it last 10 days instead of
Multiple
3
growlers.
days.
Well, I know
But
I
then
had
how
that.
long does it last if it's sealed?
I had that Smoky Mountain growler, and I've left beer in there for up to 8 days, and it's been totally carbonated, very fresh. So I don't know. I think the glass ones tend to lose somewhere along the way,
Which makes sense.
but those stainless steel double-walled ones, I would easily try to push it 2-3 weeks before opening it. And I don't think there'd be any issue.
What if you had like a 2-gallon one? How long would you leave that one sitting around if you had a...
Well, you could be like Chad and have that little carbonator thing on top, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Oh, I didn't realize he had a carbonator thing on top.
Yeah, he's got the little tapper on it. It has the little CO2 cartridges, like the old paintball cartridges that you can put on there.
But you probably can't carry that growler into one of these places, into a filling station, can you?
Well, I imagine you could. I mean, I always have a problem whenever I fill up my 16-ounce growler because they're all 32 and 64 ounce. So I know, even when I was in Wyoming, they had to go ask the manager if they could fill it, and he went and filled it, and he goes up front, and he's like, I don't know, $2.50, does that sound good? I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I was good with that. Those guys were super cheap on their growler fills,
Yeah.
so. But I think I've done that at Hy-Vee too, where they were kind of perplexed, and they ended up filling it, and it was like $3 or something like that. So,
When I don't think people are using growler fills as often as we maybe think they are. Because
No.
even when I was at the Hy-Vee at the filling station, it took them forever. Like the line behind me by the time they got done. And it wasn't because the process was slow. It's because the guy that was doing it didn't have any idea. And there was other guys standing back there with him, and nobody took it over and said, oh, this is how you do it. So clearly none of them were really educated on that. And I don't think that's because they're not trained. I think it's because they're just not probably doing it as frequently as maybe we
that
think.
could be. And I did run into that in Wyoming too, at that place where the second time I went back to have more of that IPA filled, the lady was super nice and really tried to help, but she was pouring nothing but foam.
Yep.
And the next guy came over, and he had a full growler in 5 seconds for me. It was,
Well, it's even that way when I went to Pulpit Rock. I got the 64 ounces of their pour-over porter, and the lady I asked, the first thing she says is, well, I think we can do that, but it's going to be a little more pricey, which was fine. I expect that. And then she did it, and she gave me about half foam, but then she kept on filling it and just pushing all the foam off it, so I got a full one. But then the price was still really, really reasonable. I mean, when she said it was going to be more, I thought we were talking over $20, and I think it was $14. And so I tipped her $3 because, when you tell me
Yep.
it's going to be a little bit more, I'm going to make it worth your time. But she struggled with it as well. And then not knowing for sure if I could do that, it just makes me question, are people not using that, and are people just going in there and sitting there drinking instead of realizing they don't have to be around people, they can go home and
and
drink by
we've
themselves.
seen with people at Top and Goliath, they'll actually go and fill a growler, get 2 glasses, and go back and drink that growler because it's cheaper than buying per glass.
Yep.
I get that. I don't feel right about that if I'm going to drink there. I have no problems filling a growler and taking it home for cheaper. I'm absolutely wonderful with that. I think it's a little cheap if you're doing that at the actual brewery, but I've seen that every time I've been in that brewery.
Yeah, and that seems a lot more common at Toppling and Goliath. And I don't know if that's because they just recently got into bottling and stuff like that with the bottling and canning process. It's been a while, but they were so popular back there that people just figured out that the growler was a cheaper, better alternative. And now that they've evolved a little bit more, maybe not as common, but people still remember that's what to do there.
And I know, like, when I go to single speed with my 16-ounce growler, they just charge me the price of a pint. So $5-6 or whatever. Totally fine with that. I think that's very reasonable. And so, but if somebody like Hy-Vee wants to charge me $2.50 or $3, I'm going to take that every day.
You're never going to complain about that?
So the beer fest, I went with your brother Chad.
Yep.
Your father Larry, his brother Gary, and his brother-in-law Doug. We had quite the time. It was actually a very fun day, even though it was ridiculously hot. I think I wandered or rolled away because I was in my wheelchair. I rolled away from the group for about a half hour, and I went down to a different tent line and tried every beer in that line. And it took them about a half hour to realize I was gone, so that shows you how gone they were, too.
Uh-huh.
I sat in front of the Not Your Father's root beer tent, having multiple... I don't even know which...
Probably not a good idea.
Yeah, no, I don't know what percentage root beer one they were, because, there's two different percentages of Not Your Father's. So I don't know what they were serving that day, but it did taste really good in that hot sun. But we had a good time. Gary held up very well. Doug held up very well. Your father,
not so much.
He did good right up till the end. He was a trooper, and then he was out and passed out in the car on the way back. And right away when we got home, he was out.
And that tends to be the theme with him. He can hang on because he just, I don't know, he's got the will to hang on, but then when it's done, he's done. There's no pushing through.
I will say that Chad told me I was done by 6:30. And I know for a fact that was a lie because I was texting my wife well after 7. And if you look at my fitness app, it shows that I went to sleep at 7:42. So I held in much better than I thought I would.
And how long did Chad make it?
I guess he made it till 9.
Wow.
He was the longest. He made it the longest of everybody in the group. So I can't make fun of him at all. But
oh, you can, because the last time we all went out, who's the only person who had to go home early?
He was the first one back that night.
Uh-huh.
It was Jared's bachelor party. Jared, Chad, and Larry and I went down to downtown Des Moines, and we hit every bar pretty much.
And drank
a couple
of
them twice. Like Court Avenue, we ended up there at the end of the night, and they had this wonderful thing called Root Downs.
Well, we thought it was wonderful.
We thought, at first we were thinking, Root Downs. I wonder if that's like, I don't know, we were thinking food because like all the specials were, like half-price pizzas and stuff after midnight. So we're
when
thinking,
you think root,
maybe
like
this
onion?
is like onion rings or something like that. So then we asked, and they told us what it was, and they brought us one, which is a shot of Jaeger and root beer. And they were delicious, but they had the special after midnight on a rack of roots. So we ordered that, and Chad said he had enough, and he went back to the hotel, and we stayed there. And
I think we had pizza and that.
Yeah, we had pizza and multiple Root Downs. It was fantastic.
It was. But we had drank plenty by that point.
So. Oh, goodness, yes, that was ridiculous.
But Chad gave up first that night, so he can't win it all right now. Back to this one, I'm just not. This one's not my favorite.
No, I like this one. I think it's maybe the hops fell off of it with age. And there's a black bug in it because we're outside.
We have black bugs all over you if you've noticed, but I didn't want to be racist and tell you that.
You're all about the white bugs.
That's right. But no, I'm not sure the black bugs would help the flavor of this one a little bit.
Yeah, see, I stand by it. I still think it's a really good, solid beer.
And maybe it's just not a beer to drink outside because it seems to get warm pretty quick.
Well, we might as well dig into our cooler and find the next one.
Well, I think we only have 2 left, and we don't probably have a lot of time left, so how fast are we going to drink here? Since Tim started off with 2, a double and an imperial,
Yeah, we started off with the higher alcohol ones.
That's always the way to go.
Oh, so when we went out to Wyoming, we stopped in South Dakota and spent a weekend out in Custer, and so we could go see Mount Rushmore. Went to this little local grocery store and walked through the liquor aisle, and I was kind of debating, Everybody had 6-packs of IPAs, and there were some local ones. But, when you're spending $16, $18 on a 6-pack, you want to make sure it's something good. And then my wife Tanya found this 4-pack about the same time that I found it, in different locations.
Sure, you found it at the same time.
But she came around right as I was actually grabbing it, and it's
what is it called without looking at it?
4-pack for Mount Rushmore. I actually don't even know what it's called, but each beer represents a president.
Oh, so each one in the 4-pack was different?
Yeah, so this one is Big Stick Lemongrass what?
Mint.
Lemongrass Mint. So, yeah, but there'll be a thing on the president there, so you can read that.
I don't really need to. It just talks about Theodore Roosevelt.
Oh, there you go. Well, come on.
We don't need a history lesson.
We do need a history lesson. Theodore Roosevelt, big game hunter, had rifles fitted with small scope for long-distance shooting. Won the 1906 Nobel Peace Prize. Did not know that. Liked mint juleps and used them to entice his cabinet to come play tennis with him at the White House. Nicknames: the Rough Rider, the Cowboy, Rough and Ready, TR, the Lion.
This sounds like a pedophile's description here. Used alcohol to seduce people into playing tennis with air quotes around it. Called the Rough Rider, the Bareback Cowboy, and Uncle Timmy.
Pretty sure it didn't say Bareback Cowboy. Maybe that's in your dreams. But Sick and Twisted Brewery out of Hill City, South Dakota. So I know there was a porter in here. There was...
was that Lincoln? Because he freed the slaves? And so, him opening a porter?
It was George Washington, maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. And then there's a red, and then there's an Imperial IPA. I thought this one sounded interesting on a warm day. Lemongrass Mint.
It does. I'm kind of excited about it. I haven't tried it yet.
He is. His nipples are hard. So.
They've been that way though the whole time. It's got nothing to do with the beer.
Got that effect on him. It's a blonde ale. I'm not usually a big fan of blonde ales anyways.
It's very refreshing. There's not a whole heck of a lot of flavor to it though. So I'm assuming our palates are a bit destroyed after the other ones we've tried. Very smooth, very cold. I could just guzzle that like a glass of Kool-Aid and it'd be gone.
The lemon's there. The mint is very subtle. It's there in the back.
See, and I think if my mouth was washed out, I could probably taste all of that.
I could spit in your mouth if that would help.
I'm assuming you've drank the same things that I've had, so your spit would be...
Pee in your mouth? Oh, that's a whole other podcast, folks.
No, I like it. Like I said, I could drink it very quickly. I don't think I want it to get warm. I'm guessing that would be...
Well, I don't know. Your mint and stuff. But just like I said, the one from Wingnut, the basil lime wheat, not something I expected to be good, but something I really enjoyed. So that's why I kind of put this one up for tonight, because I figured it might give us something to talk about, might be something kind of interesting.
It almost it kind of reminds me of like a weak lemonade. Like just like a lemonade with not a lot of flavor, but just light, crisp. I don't know. You could sit on a mower and drink a bunch of them in a row. But I'm guessing it was expensive, and if you get a 4-pack and they're all different, to get 4 of these, it would probably take you quite some time. And
I think it was like a $12 4-pack.
So if the rest of them in the 4-pack sucks, now what do you do?
So this one is the lowest alcohol of the group at 5.7. I think the Imperial IPA was the highest at like 10.2 maybe. So it sounded interesting enough to take a shot. It's got, picture of Mount Rushmore on it, and then each one has their own president to give little information on. Mount Rushmore, if you've never been out there, by the way, it's pretty darn amazing. I know it sounds stupid to look at a rock with a bunch of faces carved in it, but just to think of how people 100 years ago could get up on top of there to work, let alone actually carve that, was pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, but the pyramids are still way more impressive.
Well, everybody knows that aliens built those, so...
Do we know that aliens didn't build Mount Rushmore?
Empirically, no, we don't know that.
Exactly.
I would say they didn't, because wouldn't they, put pictures of, Kang and the rest of them on there?
Do we know that these 4 presidents weren't aliens?
No.
Were these guys not the reason they were put on there is maybe because they were the alien presidents that we've had?
That is actually a better point.
Yeah. I mean, because it's not like these were 4 in order. It's not like they said, oh, first, second, third, or fourth. It could potentially be that these were our first 4 alien presidents, and we just haven't had a 5th yet.
That's true. So, like, Teddy Roosevelt could have been, like, the predator in disguise because he was such a hunter, and he loved big game hunting.
That's right.
Who else did that? The predator.
Indeed. But didn't Roosevelt have a brother who had, like, polio?
Well, yeah, but did he really have polio, or did he have a hard time adjusting to Earth's atmosphere?
Well, and is polio an alien disease?
Ooh, now see, there you go.
Is that where it was introduced
This
from?
is where the conversation's going. I mean,
honestly, we don't know.
I like your train of thought, though.
That's right. Just got to challenge these things occasionally, Tim. You can't just go with what everybody
Aliens
else thinks.
created Mount Rushmore as well as the pyramids because aliens are on Mount Rushmore.
That's right.
So you think they're actually inside of Mount Rushmore watching us?
They may live
Because
there.
their eyes are really kind of creepy, the way that they look at Mount Rushmore.
Very well could be. I've
So
never been there.
They
but
could be looking
speculate all you want.
through the eye holes. And I am envisioning the Simpsons aliens.
Oh, yeah.
What is it? Krang and I don't even know what the other
Yeah,
one
I
is.
don't know what
but
their names are.
yeah, they're fantastic green, slimy with the.
Now, can you
tentacles and
go
everything.
inside Mount Rushmore?
No.
So it could be a place to hide alien
It
spacecraft.
could be, yeah. I mean, it is a mountain, so I don't think that. To public knowledge, I don't believe that there is
Anything
interior.
behind it.
Yeah, I think it's just rock, mountain. Yeah,
But sometimes, that's the best place to hide things is in plain sight.
that's very true.
You put it right there where thousands upon millions of people are looking every year.
So if they're all aliens, that has to make Trump an alien, right?
I don't know. These guys were good presidents by definition of a good president.
That's true.
And I can't.
And
I don't know
they
enough
didn't
about
look
Trump.
like aliens.
True.
They didn't have the weird hair and the orange spray tan. So.
But aliens may have evolved. I mean, because when was the last one of these
Right, but
presidents?
that is evolving or is that devolving?
I don't know. Because wasn't Theodore the last one of the presidents that's on?
Yes, Roosevelt would have been the last.
And that was 1906. So, I mean, that would mean the last time we had an alien president was over 100 years ago. 110 years ago? Because I'm assuming you won the Nobel Prize when he was in office.
I don't think so.
No.
I think he won that before he was in office.
So even let's say he was president 10 years later, that'd put him at exactly 100 years out. So maybe this is the year of our
Didn't he
alien
come by
president.
after the Great Depression?
But you'd have to know when the Great Depression was and all
Well, that would have been the 20s. I think he was around the 30s and 40s, wasn't he?
So you think he won the Nobel Peace Prize and then 34 years later became president?
I don't know. I've had a lot of beer.
Because that would make him quite, I mean,
I suppose
maybe.
old for that time, yeah. Maybe I'm thinking of his brother.
I don't know. Now we're going to have to look all that up.
Yeah, we can't look that up because we're recording on the phone, and all you'd hear is our hands going.
Tim just paused us.
And we're back.
Because he was trying to be clever.
That's what happens when we screw with the phone when we're recording.
Yep. No, but I enjoy this beer. If aliens made it, more power to them.
Yeah. Now we've gone to the alien brewers.
I mean, it all makes sense, doesn't
Well,
it?
sure. They might as well, run our country and brew the beer that we make.
That's right.
Right, yeah, this is a pretty tasty blonde ale. I've actually had a couple of good blonde ales this summer, and I don't really care for blonde ales, like I said.
I don't think I've ever heard of a blonde ale until we just drank this.
I had one from Ohio, Rheingeist.
Oh, yeah, I don't enjoy that brewery at all. But
No?
I've never had their blonde ale.
I enjoyed their pale ale. And they had an IPA. I want to say the IPA was Truth, but I enjoyed the pale ale more. But the Truth is one that gets all the hype.
Yeah, and I've had that one because that's actually in Cincinnati. So when I said we had the local ones from Cincinnati, that was one of them. And
their Panther Porter is one that gets a ton of press, and that was just kind of meh. Not bad, but not.
But if you've ever been to Cincinnati, there ain't much good coming out of Cincinnati. Cincinnati's kind of just a dirty, dirty little hole.
Right, like the Bengals, yeah.
They've been in the playoffs way more consecutive years than the Detroit Lions. So say what you want about them. They're about the only good thing in that whole town.
I'll give you that. They are.
Uh-huh.
Even if they have a soulless ginger leading them.
That's all right. But no, that town just sucks. So the fact that they don't produce great beer does not shock me.
Yeah, I heard a lot about Rheingeist, and I was kind of disappointed after having them. I mean, like I said, their IPA was good, not fantastic, definitely not worth the hype. Their pale ale I thought was really good, and that's one that never got any hype from them. Their porter, very mediocre porter. But their blonde actually was pretty darn tasty.
And where did you get all those from?
Their
'Cause
blonde
they're not
called
sold around here locally.
Cougar Blonde, actually. And that one of my coworker's husband actually was doing some training in Ohio, and
On how to get mugged and shot, or
maybe about how not to live in Ohio.
Makes sense.
And he brought me some of that back. So he's in St. Louis now, and he's every once in a while he'll call me up when he's bored and he's in the liquor store. Hey, have you had this? Have you had this? So we'll see. Maybe we'll get something good in there.
That'd be interesting.
Millstreams, have you tried their peach one yet?
I have not. I saw that you had tried them and it was good, so I figured we would have it here sometime. So I'm still
almost
waiting on
put
it.
that in with tonight's stuff to try because I have one more left.
But you didn't, I see.
I didn't, no. I went with the lemongrass bit instead.
And that one's good. That was a good pick. I would have.
I'd say that the peach one's probably better, but this is still a good one. Yeah. So,
and we have one more left, is that correct?
We have one more left.
Are we going to make it through that one?
I don't know. I think I only have an hour.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you died.
Well, we're going to call it. We'll see if it died. We might have to come back and record an outro and cut it short. So
that's all right.
So we'll come back another time. I'm hoping, if this is still recording, that you will know we are going to hopefully go to Pulpit Rock and talk with Tyler and maybe some of the brewers. And Austin from Single Speed said to look him up probably later July, early August, and he will join us too. So.
And if we don't ever get hooked up with Pulpit Rock, we'll just go buy a growler and go to the real Pulpit Rock and just sit there and drink the whole growler, just because that'll be what we do.
That, or we could just do an impromptu session on our own. We'll just go take over the bar.
I'm not sure they would enjoy that.
We'll just sit there, put the phone down, not even let them know we're recording, order a flight, and start talking. And they'll be like, why the hell are you talking like that? And we just won't answer them. We'll just keep on going, and we'll see what happens. So, but anyways, should be good times. If you get to hear this, great. If not, probably better for you. So, till next time, have some good beer.
That was great outro.
Great outro. Here we go.